Hey everyone, Felipe here. Welcome to another Tower of Saviors card review video. In this video, I'll be taking a look at the new 1% jackpot card from the Pertinacious Belief series, Contrivance creator Omega. Omega is going to be a Dark Machina card, and I'll be taking a look at its leader skills, team skills, and active skills, and letting you know my thoughts and opinions about this card. So let's get started with his leader skill first. We have, when the team only has Machinas, your team attack increases by 8 times, HP and recovery increases by 2 times, and Fuel of Machina will increase by 1.5 the number of groups of runestones dissolved in the first batch. Additionally, when 10 or more combos are made, team attack increases by 3 times additionally, and it increases a further 3 times more if you do 20 or more combos. At first glance, this might seem like a very hard condition to meet, but let's take a look at the team skill. For the team skill, we have when the leader is Contrivance creator Omega with only Machinas in the team, you get the following team skills. First, you get the Machina dynamics, which is shared amongst all Machinas, so we won't go over that first. But for the unique team skills that he has, we have Runestone movement time gets increased regardlessly by 4 seconds. For each type of Runestone dissolved, your combo count increases by 4 to the max of 24 for 6 types dissolved. Runestones of the member's attribute will also possess 50% effect of other runestones. Damage dealt by Omega will be dealt regardless of fixed combo shield and initial shield. And when you have 100% fuel, your second active skill will change. And we'll take a look at that later in the active skills section. So in my opinion, this leader skill and his leader skills is actually pretty good. We have a times 8 team attack bonus as a baseline, which is pretty good in the current meta. But we also have a times 3 and a times 3 when 20 or more combos are made. This means that if you run dual leader and ally, you're going to be getting a pretty significant damage multiplier on your leader skills. And for the third and fourth effect, this is going to be pretty easy to hit because you are getting plus 4 combos per type of runestone dissolve. If you're able to dissolve all 6 runestones, you get a additional 24 combos, which will hit this fourth condition really easily. Even if you don't, by dissolving 3 types of runestones or 4 types of runestones, that's already a plus 12 combo. Or 4 types of runestones is a plus 16, which only means that you have to have 4 combos. So if you do 4 combos of one attribute each or one type each, you are going to be hitting that plus 20 combo really easily, or hitting that 20 combo really easily and be able to reach max multiplier. So in my opinion, this leader skill is actually pretty good, especially when you pair it up with the team skill, because no matter what the round is, there is a very high likelihood of you getting 20 combos and reaching your max damage ceiling. So overall, his baseline leader skill is pretty good in terms of damage. He doesn't really include that much shield breaking potential here, but something else that I want to point out is the fact that your fuel increases by 1.5 times the number of groups of runestones dissolved in the first batch. In my opinion, one of the biggest weaknesses of Machina cards is the fact that you still have to build fuel every single round, and you only reach your max damage when you reach 100% fuel. That is why Lilith is so good, because Lilith will send you directly to 100% whenever you enter the stage, which means that she can get going from the first round. However, Omega is not as broken as Lilith, and will still have to build fuel. However, since your fuel accumulation is going to be faster than normal Machinas, this is going to be really beneficial for him too, because you will build fuel faster and be able to reach 100% fuel even faster than your typical Machina cards. And in my opinion, that is really good because a lot of Machina cards get extra effects when you have 100% fuel, so being able to reach your max fuel faster is definitely a bonus for the leader skill. In terms of a team skill, extend the runestone movement time for 4 seconds regardless of any enemy skills is going to be really beneficial as well, because the more time you have to move, the better your combos and the more combos you can make, and the easier it is for you to reach your 20 combo count and deal your max amount of damage. You also have runestone possession effect, which means you're never running out of attacking runes, which is really good as well. Damage of Omega will be dealt regardless of fixed shield and initial shield, which in my opinion, having inbuilt shield breaking potential in your team skill definitely makes a good leader, because that means you don't have to bring any utility cards to counter these shields, and you can deal with them passively without having to occupy one team slot in your team for that specific shield. So the fact that you have fixed combo and initial shield, which is two of the more common enemy shield in the game, means that you don't have to worry about bringing utility cards, and you can just burst through them without, yeah, by ignoring those enemy skills. But yeah, so in my opinion, his leader skill and team skills are pretty simple, but they do pack a lot into it, and it is really good in my opinion. Good damage output, decent shield breaking potential, good combo count. Nowadays, being able to generate extra combos is really beneficial, especially now with the addition of enemies that every time they attack you, they will require a higher combo count. Being able to increase your combo count passively is going to be really beneficial as well. Extend the runestone movement time and runestone position effect. So in my opinion, he is going to be pretty fun to play, pretty powerful. Compared to Lilith, he will lack a little bit. So if you don't have Lilith, this is going to be a good leader to have because it is a good Machina, and it is one of the few Dark Machina cards that will serve as a leader. So having a Dark Machina leader is something we don't see that often, so it is definitely worth having. But again, if you don't have Lilith, this might be a good Machina leader to go for. If you have Lilith, then I think you can consider skipping this card because Lilith is infinitely better, because more flexibility in building your team, because you can add any other races in your team. Meanwhile, Omega can only run Machina cards. So if you have Lilith, definitely it is worth considering skipping this card. But overall, I do think this is a pretty good leader card and has a really good team skill as well. So now let's take a look at his active skills. For his active skill, we have two active skills. The first active skill is cooldown 8, CD8 for 1 round. Runestones can be dissolved by aligning 2 or more in the first batch. Character's attack increases by 3 times. And based on the attributes of the number of team members in the team, the character will launch a corresponding number of extra attacks and corresponding attributes. What this means is that for every member in your team that you have, you will launch an extra attack, and for every attribute in your team, you will launch an extra attack of that attribute. So in my opinion, this active skill is pretty good. Dissolving 2 or more runestones, or dissolving runestones in groups of 2 or more is really beneficial, will net you a lot of combos and give you more combo bonus and higher attacking power. So being able to dissolve by 2 or more, definitely a good thing to do. Can also help you clear boards that are riddled with cracked runes, weather runes, electrify runes, sticky runes, etc. So definitely a good flexible dissolving option for an active skill. You further get a ×3 attack bonus on Omega, which is pretty good, given he already has a significant attack multiplier on his leader skill. Increasing that by ×3 with his active skill is going to be pretty good as well. Based on the attribute numbers for the extra attacks, this is going to be really good in an Omega team because your leader is going to be Omega, and you are going to be able to launch attacks of different attributes and launch extra attacks as well. If you're running a 5 attribute team, that means that you can launch attacks of 5 different attributes, and this is going to be really beneficial, especially against enemies that require you to launch 5 different attribute of attacks before you can deal any damage. So in my opinion, definitely a good active skill to have. CD8 is going to be a little bit slow in my opinion, but the effect itself is pretty powerful for a CD8. That being said, if it were lower CD, then I would say it is a really, really good active skill. But I think this this does have the balance between a powerful skill effect and a relatively good cooldown for the effect that it has. But yeah, so now let's take a look at his second active skill. We have 2 versions of this active skill. The second one will only activate when the leader is the character and the team only has Machinas in the team. For the first effect, or for the first version of the second active skill, it is also cooldown 8. Damage will be reduced according to the number of Machinas in the team to the max of -100%. If you're running a full Machina team, this is going to be a 100% damage reduction. on a CD8 skill, which is not bad, but there are so many enemies in the game that ignore defense or damage reducing skills that nowadays reducing your damage is not that useful anymore, especially if it only lasts for one round. This only buys you one extra round, which is not as good in my opinion, especially for a CD8 skill. Normally, damage reduction effects, to be good, will have something else attached to them, but in my opinion, 100% damage reduction will be useful in certain scenarios, but overall, the utility is not as useful as other skill effects in the game. For the second effect, this will only apply if you're running an Omega as a leader and you have 100% fuel. So we'll turn all runestones into Enchanted Machina runes. Fuel will be reduced to 0. Omega skill cooldown will be reset, and all members except Omega will have a -6 skill cooldown reduction. All members will stay in a hyper state for 3 rounds. In my opinion, I am very conflicted about this skill because CD8 1 is pretty long, and the benefits doesn't really warrant you a lot. It doesn't give you a lot of benefit from this skill. So what are the positives about this skill? The positives is that you get a skill cooldown reduction of -6 for every other member except Omega, and you also get all members entering a hyper state for 3 rounds. But the cost is that you are lowering your fuel to 0%. And this is a problem because Machinas will only reach their max damage ceiling if they are above 50% or 100% fuel. So they will reach their damage ceiling at 100% fuel. You can deal your max damage at 100%, but the second milestone is going to be 50%, and your damage increases from there as well. The fact that you're lowering your damage all the way to 0% or lowering your fuel all the way to 0% also means that you're losing out on your Machina properties. You're lowering your damage output overall at the expense, or in order to get a cooldown reduction of all your teams and giving them a hyper state. In my opinion, this hyper state kinda makes up for the reduction in fuel, but overall I do think that having 100% fuel is more beneficial than having a hyper state for 3 rounds. This is because at 100% fuel you're launching extra attacks and your damage also scales based on the amount of fuel that you have. In my opinion, this skill is a little bit contradictory in the fact that it gives you some benefits, but the downside is also a little bit significant in terms of the card. So the only way I see this being super useful is that if you used up a member's active skill and you need it activated immediately, then yes, you can activate it to reduce the cooldown by 6 and potentially have that broken effect ready again, and then use that to bring yourself up to 100% fuel, or use that to increase your damage output and deal more damage. But other than that, I do think reducing your fuel to 0% is a little bit of a big downside. So the chances of you using this skill is going to be pretty situational in my opinion. And this was only usable in a Omega as a leader. So this is only an option that you have if you're running Omega as a leader. But yeah, so overall, for his active skills, I think he is a little bit confusing. His first skill is pretty good, no question about that. It does give you pretty good benefits at a relatively long cooldown skill, but I do think it is a pretty good memory card as well as a good active skill for him as a leader. On the other hand, for his second active skill, I do think this is a pretty situational active skill. The first version, this is the version you get if you run him as a member. It will be good as a member because you can survive for one extra round in whatever Machina team you want to bring him in. But I do think in overall, I think this active skill doesn't do much in terms of utility, and so there are better cards for him to be better cards than him to use as a member in other Machina teams. Other than that, the second active skill, Gives you some benefits, 3 rounds of hyper state and a skill -6 cooldown on all other members, but reduces your fuel to 0, which in my opinion is a little bit conflicting, and some testing must be done in here. But in my opinion, I don't think I would be using this active skill too much because I personally prefer having 100% fuel. 100% fuel uptime more than just a 3-round attack boost, because 100% fuel does give you more attack and also extra attacks. Yeah, so overall, I do think this is a good leader card in terms of active skills. He has one good active skill, the second one is just okay. It balances out. Still feels like a pretty good card and pretty good leader in my opinion. Now, whether you should pull for him or not, I do recommend that if you do not have any good Machina leaders right now, he might be a worthwhile option to consider, because Machina cards are pretty powerful, and they have, even though they're the newest race and don't have as much utility right now, they still have a pretty good pool of cards in terms of utility and damage boosters. So having a good Machina leader for those cards is definitely beneficial for you. However, if you already have a good Machina leader, um, Lilith, for example, then you might want to consider saving your resources for the upcoming collaboration cards or any black gold cards or new seals that come out. Um, my key takeaway is if you have Lilith, you don't really need Omega. And so if you don't have Lilith, then consider getting Omega if you need a Machina leader. But otherwise, save your resources for the next collaboration. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about this card. Please let me know in the comments whether I said anything wrong or if I missed anything. And as always, stay tuned on my YouTube channel for more Tower of Saviors content. For now, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time. Bye everyone!